Hey everyone, welcome back to the High Five a Day podcast. Here with Jesi Stracham. Super excited for today's episode. Learn more from her, hear from her. She's a trailblazing entrepreneur, motivational speaker, mindset coach, and just purely inspirational. If you know who she is already, if not, you're going to learn more about her today. So, Jesi, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Super excited as well. So, I've been kind of following you for the past couple months, seeing the different things that you've been doing, learning a lot from you just from afar, and it's been awesome. So I've been looking forward to this conversation for a couple months now, honestly. Um, but just to kind of start out, tell me a little bit more about yourself and your background, so that people can kind of get to know a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am 32 years old. I live outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in northeastern Ohio, raced four-wheelers my whole life, and my parents relocated
Nice.
to North Carolina. It was sick. I lived with my sponsor for a few months before they actually moved down. And so it was a really neat, non-conventional experience. I was a junior in high school when we moved. And I did that, turned 18, lost my ride, and I was like, all right, I have to pay for this, don't have the money. So I ended up getting a job and just going into the workforce. Quickly got involved in the party lifestyle, right? The drinking, the pills, the let's just have a good time. I smoked cigarettes. I was kind of a little bit of a wreck. Never went to the gym. Never took care of myself. Didn't understand any of that. Um, I had a long-term boyfriend that was a serial cheater, sex addict. It was a real thing that I've kind of come to terms with these days. And I got paralyzed in a motorcycle accident, and it completely changed my life for the better. It made me a better person. It was one of the biggest blessings I think that could have ever happened to me because it was a reality check I needed and a humbling I needed.
Wow. I love that perspective, and I'm sure it's one not enough people have, and I mean that's exactly why we have you on the podcast today to hear more about your insights there. Um, yeah, so I'm super excited to dive into that and hear more of what you can teach everybody about that. But before we get into that, something that's just kind of I think this is kind of how we met, but you got to attend the Paralympic Games this year, back in, is that September or so?
Yes.
And so I just kind of want to hear some more about kind of what took you out there, out to Paris to be around all those superstar athletes, and then just what the experience was like for you.
The experience itself of the Paralympics is unbelievable. It's unlike, it is, for lack of better words, the most inspiring thing you will ever see in your life. Paralympians are just, they're unreal. Like that, what
Yeah.
goes into it, um, the mindset, the discipline, and so it was an honor to get to partner with Team USA. That's what took me to Paris was a content creation partnership with Team USA,
Okay.
and to get to be a part of that experience, their first time having content creators at the Paralympics. For so long, it was just the Olympics where there was content creators flown in and things like that. And so this year, it was the first year that Team USA for the Paralympics had a Team USA house. They
Okay.
had content creators come out to raise awareness. And so the whole partnership was to raise awareness around the games and to make people aware of Paralympians and their training and things. So I did athlete interviews. I got to go to a lot of the different games. I think I saw 8 different venues while I was there.
Oh wow.
It was unbelievable, the experience of a lifetime, and just such an honor, man.
I believe it. Well, I think just the coolest thing too is, beyond being able to be there, but that you're able to have other para athletes there doing those interviews, being the content creators, having, that representation. But really, I think you're able to connect a whole lot better with those athletes as well.
Yeah, it was really cool too because there was a couple of athletes that were local that had medaled, and that was cool because I'm like, oh wow, we're from like the same place, like we're going home to the same place, and I got to meet you in Paris. Like, what are the chances? And then also getting to meet my friends that live all over the country that we haven't got to connect in the States. And then we ended up connecting in Paris and having workouts together and doing different things. And so I think that part of it was really cool too. The sportscasting side of it, I really, really enjoyed that. I didn't know how much I would enjoy interviewing and covering the different sports and doing things like that. And so it was definitely all around, personally, professionally, and just as a whole, just an incredible experience and life changing for sure.
What was your favorite event to watch while you were out there?
Oh, you can't do that to me. Um,
Top
it's so
five.
hard. Top five. I can do top five. So we actually got to learn seated volleyball from the Team USA girls, and
Okay.
getting to play seated volleyball. I was the only para on the floor, so the only one without any use of their legs. Others were amps and things like that, and then of course the non-disabled people with us. And so it was like dragging myself around the floor was so interesting. But watching it, I have such a different respect. It's such a fast sport. Definitely wheelchair rugby. Watching the final match, that was also insane. The chairs flipping, rolling, flying. You don't see anything like it. Same thing with wheelchair basketball. I watched
Yeah.
both men's and women's. Loved it. And then archery. Honestly, archery was so dope because it was quiet, and then you're watching the arrow, and the arrow flies so fast, and it was, yeah. And fencing, oh my god, powerlifting, swimming. Swimming was great. Track and field, the venue for track and field was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So cool. I mean, yeah, I don't think you could be upset attending any Olympic event in any way, obviously. I think
Mm-mm.
my favorite too, I think that I kind of saw, I mean, swimming is just it's miraculous just how that competition is not level playing field at all. And then you still see people winning that you're like, how? With no arms. It's just like how? You like you watch one race and your life is you're just like I can be so much better. It's
Yes.
one race will change your whole life. It's so cool.
I, I honestly, the coolest part was when people medaled and the American
Uh-huh.
flag went up and the national anthem played, and you're just like,
Oh man.
ah, that's cool.
Yeah. No, that definitely is. I wouldn't necessarily a friend, but I in high school I ran cross country, and so there was a guy, the Kenneth Rooks in the Olympics. He placed silver in the I can't think the 3,000 meter steeplechase. So it was kind of cool. I really don't know him on a personal level at all, but it was cool to be like I have a connection to someone that's like on that podium and on the world stage. So I can imagine what that was like to be like, oh, I've talked to that person and they're up there representing our country. That's so cool.
So cool. Uh,
So cool. I think
yeah.
the funniest thing I saw for the Paralympics was I watched a couple ping pong matches, and so obviously they're not able to move a whole lot, especially the wheelchair ones. I think was kind of what I was watching, and someone had made a meme out of it, and it's just like the Paralympic ping pong is just like who can be the biggest jerk in like in how you play the ball. Just like you just kind of hit it back and forth, and then you just send it flying somewhere else, and it's just like, bro, they'd hit it so the spin on it would bounce, and then it'd bounce back over, and it's just like there's nothing the other guy could do, and then you just see the back and forth of that. It was. I mean, the skill is phenomenal, but it was just fun to watch. So,
Entertaining.
yes, for
I love
sure. Well, that's so cool. I mean, anybody just attending the Olympics, I'm sure, has an amazing experience. You got to be there on a very personal level and all those things. As you came back to the States with everything that you're doing personally and in your businesses, did that experience have any impact on those things or change the way you're looking at things?
It definitely made me audit some things. A couple of my friends that are Paralympians were like, "Why don't you have Paralympian behind your name?" And I was like, that's a good question. I never picked a sport and really committed to it. And so it had me come home wanting more and to do more. But I'm also in this phase of life where I'm just so focused on my businesses and really growing that front. And like, I found my person and I want to have a family. And so, like, I'm really in kind of that phase of life right now.
Yeah,
And it really solidified that for me. And like, that I don't have to have this thing, but there's this thing there if I want to have it.
for sure, for sure. And so you have a couple businesses, right? You have, if I'm not mistaken, you have an apparel brand, you have kind of a health and wellness recovery brand, and then you also have a community for other wheelchair users. Is that right?
Yeah, so we have Wheel With Me Adapt Fit. That's the fitness community and the fitness app that I co-created with
Okay.
Nikki Walsh for wheelchair users. So Wheel With Me Adapt Fit is a
Okay.
downloadable app in the iOS store, Google Play Store, and really focuses on giving wheelchair users fitness. There's programming for both in the gym, at home, and really making seated fitness accessible. And then there's a private Facebook community that's free to join. I personally have a coaching community. It's called Freedom Fam. It's $24.75 a week right now. And we have 2 calls a week, and we really deep dive into mindset and our goals and nutrition, to allow people to be able to actually get to where they want to go and do what they want to do. Because so often, like, the application side of it, as far as actually doing the things necessary to create the change in your life, we miss that. And so through Freedom Fam, our goal is to actually make it to where people have the skills to where they can do the things on their own, hold themselves accountable, create that discipline on their own. And a lot of people are just missing those skills because it's not something that's commonly taught. And so we're teaching a lot of self-awareness, understanding what makes you tick, creating rhythms in your life, and just really focusing on the 4 C's, which is kind of our mission in the community. And that's clarity, conciseness, commitment, and consistency. If you hit those 4 things in your life and around your goals, you will be able to get to where you want to go. But that's kind of like what we do. We really enjoy it. I love the community program. That's probably my favorite. It's hard to put favorites, but that is one of my favorite things that I get to do. I love the group coach setting. I love being in that setting with people. I also co-own a wellness facility in Lake Norman, North Carolina. It's called Freedom Longevity and Wellness. We have cold plunge, infrared sauna, red light therapy, hyperbaric chamber, PMF, 5X, all these recovery units to really help with the longevity of your wellness as a human. A lot of times we only focus on fitness and mindset, but we're not focusing on, okay, how can we also make ourselves feel better physically, naturally, without supplements, without masking it, without a Band-Aid. So Freedom Longevity and Wellness is born. We're co-owned by a veteran and another entrepreneur in the Lake Norman area and myself. And so it's really, really, really exciting. I became a co-owner in that in February of this year. And then I have my personal brand where I speak, and we have the clothes on the website and things like that. And then the nonprofit Wheel With Me Foundation. And the nonprofit serves the independence of wheelchair users. We're a 501c3. We have a summer camp every year for wheelchair users. So it's $150 to join for the weekend. That includes your lodging and food all weekend long. It's in Carrabassett Valley, Maine. You got to get your flight to Portland. The bus comes and picks you up, and then you prepare for a weekend of adventure with other wheelchair users.
Super awesome. So cool. And kind of my question to you on all of that is, like, why do you do what you're doing? Like, why start a health and fitness recovery brand? Why start a community? Why start a foundation? Like, why share your message? Like, why not just, keep it to yourself, be successful, but like, why share? Why is that important to you?
Because if I can go from snorting pills off the back of a toilet, drinking every night, hooking up with 3 to 4 different people a week, having no money in the bank, not knowing where the hell I'm going in life, using people, hurting people, just all around coming from where I came from, I know that other people can get through whatever it is they're struggling with and get on the other side and go live life to the fullest. I know that we're capable of more as human beings. I know that we can do more, and sometimes we just need a little support and someone to hold your hand. That's what I needed. Coaches saved me, and so that's what really led me to becoming a coach. Is I went through the struggle. I had the hard times. I had to feel the things, and I came out on the other side happier, better, and living a more fulfilled life than I could have ever done on my own. And so it led me to learning about these things. The nutrition side, I'm so passionate about nutrition, is because it saved my independence as a wheelchair user. I lost full independence during the pandemic. I couldn't transfer, I couldn't get dressed, and it was all because I was under eating. I fixed my eating habits, learned about food and what food served me, and guess what? I fixed my body. And I'm like, if I could do these things for other people and make them realize, hey, you actually have more control over your wellness than you are allowing or believing, then we're saving people. We're saving them hardship, we're saving them struggle, we're saving them sadness, and we're really helping to preserve mental health. And at the end of the day, I think that's what it's about, is humans helping human. If we want change in the world, it starts with us and the way we show up. So if you want change, you've got to literally be that change. That is the realest statement I think anyone's ever made. And like, genuinely be the change you want to see in the world. It starts with you, because you impact those around you, and then those around you impact those around them, and it's just a waterfall effect.
Definitely, definitely. And that's definitely what builds it up, and it all comes back full circle. You know, the more people that you help, the more people that are going to start helping you, and everyone gets served, everyone's lifted up, and just the level of joy in the world just it grows and it can't be taken down.
Dude, absolutely. And the more of that we have, just the happier we all are. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, you genuinely have the choice to be happy. You have the choice to feel a certain way. You actively choose to be sad because you're putting yourself in a situation to be sad. And I think that that's really important. When I realized that, I was able to go from wanting to kill myself to living life to the fullest, to not wanting to exist, to wanting to thrive and see what all I could wring out from life. What does God have to offer me? And
Yeah.
that's so important for people to understand, is like, you can choose to be really, really sad and upset about your circumstances, or you could just be like, it is what it is. I'm going to see what life has to offer and squeeze it out.
Yeah. And I think if you can hold on to that belief and that understanding, I mean, obviously it doesn't just like come roses and rainbows and like, as soon as you make that decision, but I think it does, it happens pretty quickly if you stick to it for, a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, and then it just keeps growing. You hit that exponential growth point, and you just got to stick with it till then, honestly.
I agree. I agree so much. Consistency. That's the fourth C.
I mean, I think it's the most important one. You build up the three before it, and then you keep doing them, which is it's just like circle back and repeat, and we'll keep having those. I watched a video you put out the other day, or I watched the other day. I don't remember when you posted it, but you were talking about just your progress in rebuilding the the strength in your body from where you've been paralyzed down. And you were talking about how in the last 5 years you've gained more mobility and strength than you ever did in the first 5 years. But because you were working at it consistently, all these 10 years, you've been able to have that experience. So it kind of sheds some more light on that journey physically, but then, if you feel like there's anything to elaborate on what it's taught you in other areas, definitely go for it.
I read 2 books this year that helped solidify this belief: The Power of Intention and The Expectation Effect. Those 2 books, 10 out of 10 recommend. If you have a hard time believing in things that seem impossible, read those books.
Yeah.
Really help. I believe that the human body is capable of amazing things. I was told I would never regain sensation movement below my chest down. I'm paralyzed at what's called T4, about nipple line down. And I've regained some lower back strength. I've regained some core strength. I regained some leg strength, sensation. And I believe that it's accumulation of me eating enough, me meditating, watching my mindset, journaling. I journal almost every day, reading other people's experience in life, 10 pages of a nonfiction personal development book, getting the movement. I'm in my standing frame doing this interview right now. Like, I do the things necessary to keep my body healthy, but I still make sure to go live life and find that happiness as well. And I think so often we're either one extreme or the other. We do nothing to keep ourselves happy, or we do everything we can to try and walk again and focus on this goal and make that our only goal. So when it doesn't happen, we create disappointment. That disappointment and negative emotion creates a negative feedback loop, which creates disbelief. That disbelief creates the thing from not happening. And so it's all a matter of power of manifestation, but being very consistent and very committed to that manifestation itself, right? And into that process. I'm not saying I'm gonna walk again, but I'm also not gonna say I'm not. And that's the approach I took. I just knew that I wanted to stay as healthy as possible, and I wanted to stay as happy as possible. And as long as I put those 2 things at the forefront of my mind, then I'm going to achieve that. That's why I stand. That's why I do the wellness things that I do. I do these things for preservation of my body, and then what's happening with it is healing. And so now I've created a space where my body is actually able to heal. It is actually able to repair itself. To what extent? We'll find out from God as I go through this. But in the time being, I'm going to do everything in my power to not leave anything up to chance. I'm going to work hard. Like, yes, I believe in God and I give God my life, and this is in every aspect. But at the end of the day, you're going to still see me work, 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 and I work harder than most people not in my situation. And I love that about myself. I think that's important. I think that so often we use our disability or use our struggle as an excuse not to work hard, and like, I can't do this because of this reason. When in reality, you can't do it because you're choosing not to do it.
No, 100%. I think that's a beautiful point. God loves effort. He's going to bless us. He's going to give us everything. He, is everything for us, but he loves effort. He loves
Amen.
when we put in work just because we believe it's important, because we want to build everything that we can for ourselves, and he gives us everything and more. It's such a beautiful thing.
It really is. When you start showing up for God, God starts showing up for you. And it's like when you just are like, hey God, what's your mission for my life? Like, I'm gonna do all this work over here. Just guide me and make sure I'm on the right path. And he'll either give you green lights or he'll be like, nah, this isn't the right path. And it's up to you to follow that through, because how many times does he say, hey, this isn't the path, this isn't the path? We ignore the signs, and then what happens? We end up in this negative situation that we could have avoided had we listened to our higher power in that moment. And it's that silence, dude. I think silence is the most powerful thing we can have. I sit in silence a lot. Like this year, do you use Spotify? Are you a Spotify guy?
I do.
Okay.
I use it more for audiobooks than anything, and podcasts. So my rap was a little bit weird, but I was like, but yeah, I'm
Okay.
watching everybody's.
So every year previous in my Wrapped, my music would be like 40,000, 50,000, like a lot of minutes, right? And my podcast would be around 4,000. This year it went down to 30,000 on music, but my podcast is up to 15,000. And it's all
Wow.
personal development wellness podcast. It's nothing, there's nothing entertainment in there, because I don't honestly don't care to consume that content right now. I'm not in that stage of my life. Um,
Right.
but I'm like, wow, like what a way a way to keep a measurement of how much you're actually working on your growth and how much you're actually consuming. What are you consuming? What's that like? And like, think about the music you consume. If you consume music that talks about how you're wronged or killing people and like, or sadness, like my girlfriend and my wife left and they took the dog, like, I'm talking every genre, right? Like, it doesn't matter what genre
Yeah.
you're to. If you're consuming music that has a negative undertone to it, how are you going to feel after listening to that? You might feel sadness, you might feel doubt, right? Whereas if you listen to positive, high beat, uplifting, you're going to feel a little happy, you're going to feel good. Like, I know when I listen to worship music, not for everybody, when I listen to worship music, like the pop stuff, oh man, do I feel good? I'll start crying and I'm like, that is so good. Got my antennas up, receiving. Like, that's the biggest thing. It's like you've gotta find things that make you have that energy. Because if you keep consuming music, content, people, all of these things that are just negative and bring you down, that's what you're going to end up being. And I don't think that we consider our consumption enough and how it actually impacts us. We don't consider the people around us enough and how they actually impact us. You really are the sum of what you consume and what you're around.
No, 100%. And for me, as I'm getting into bigger content creation levels, I'm just like, you know, I don't want to be on here so much consuming all this stuff and just watching whatever. And so then it just like it kind of puts into your mind the thought is like, well, like why do I want to create stuff for other people to watch? Because then they're stuck on here. So then it's just like, well, I'm gonna be doing it. It better be so good and so uplifting, so positive that like I can feel good about it, putting it out there.
Yeah.
And I think that bridge with as I was kind of prepping for this and just kind of thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about, it just kind of crossed my mind. I think a lot of people we see all these great people, these motivational speakers, the entrepreneurs, these influencers that are all doing amazing things. And I was just thinking about it the other day, and it's like you know potential wise, like we're all the same, person to person. We all have the same potential and capability to go do something great. And I think what really changes people, what makes them, the visibly different, is they have these opportunities that either come to them or they chase them down, so relentlessly until they get there, to go, and then they get the choice to go build something great. Obviously, you had a life-changing event to be paralyzed, and you could have let that beat you down, and you wouldn't have a platform like you do today. You never know, but you chose like, hey, like I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna inspire people, and so looking at your story, I was just like, I wish and I hope that more people will take the experiences and the events in their lives, they're as drastic as, becoming paralyzed to, having some just so like the little things, but just letting all those events spur us on to build something great. And great doesn't need to be big, right? It just needs to be impactful to the people that you care about.
100%. And to add to that, I think it's so important that we understand too, like I've been really real and authentic. I don't just share the good. I also share like this is kind of where I came from. These are the
Yeah,
things that I went through, and I think that's important too. Like you can't just consume someone's highlight reel. You need to find someone that's relatable to you and be like, you know what, if they can do it, then I know I can do it. If someone comes to my page when they're having a bad day to get pulled out of that bad day, that's freaking cool, right? I think that's everyone's goal as a creator is like, hey, I just want to help some people.
yeah, yeah. And I think, that's the beauty of when you're able to build it then a community and you're able to interact with those people, face to face or, even on a screen, and you build that connection, and you get to see how the things you do help them. But at the same time, whether they know it or not, just, them being there and being helped by you helps you in return so much, I think.
So much. Yo, you know it does too. It's like I got a message the other day and actually I sent it to one of my best friends and I was like, "Look at this message I got on Instagram." And it was really cool because it's like I've been following you for years and for years like when I have a bad day, I come to your page and you help me and it's just like, "No, I'm just sharing my life and like that helps you." That's really freaking cool.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I love that concept and that idea. Just those unseen successes that you never hear about, and the aid that we're able to render to people. And that's so the name of this podcast, the High Five a Day podcast. That's what it all stems around. Is just intentional small acts of positivity that we can spread ourselves. Just like if you were to go high five people a day on the street as you're going around, you never know when the person that you say hi to, you smile to, is having that rough time. And like you never know when they're on the brink of just absolutely crumbling, and your smile, your handshake, your hug, absolutely not just changes their day, but I think more often than not changes the trajectory of their entire life.
Well, I think it's important. Like my favorite thing and my favorite saying is see a smile, share a smile. Or share a smile, see a smile, share a smile. And it's like, hey, you see a smile, share a smile. Like
Yeah.
the most contagious, easiest thing that can make such a massive impact on someone's day. I've never thought of high fiving people, and I low key, I'm like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna just high five a bunch of random people, and they're like, yo, the chick in the chair is high fiving me. And I'm like, hey.
It changes you. I mean, there's I mean, I'm guessing do you know who Mel Robbins is?
Yeah, yeah.
So her book, The High Five Habit, I just finished it recently, and she talks about just all the studies that have gone to like um, just the psychological changes you undergo through just a high five. And there's this one experiment that she talks about. They like three groups of kids, and they all had some kind of like school oriented task, I think, to complete. And so um, each of the three groups got like a different catalyst given to them. Like there was one group that told like, "Oh, you guys are super smart." Another group was like, "Oh, you guys got this," and then the last group just got high fives. And the highest performing group was the group that got the high fives, and the lowest performing group was
Wow.
like the group that was told, "Oh, you guys are super smart." But and so I just that's kind of where it stuck with me. Um, Actually, it all sat on my mind. I lived in Central America for a year. I was serving a mission for my church, and one of the cultural things that they have in Latin America is you just say hi to everybody on the street, like whether you know them or not, or have ever seen them in your life. If you pass someone on the street, you say hi to them, and it's the best thing. These people are so happy, and I think that's a big contributing factor to it. But when I came home and I went to college, I was like, I'm gonna carry this with me. I'm just gonna say hi to everybody, and I started doing it, and people glared at me more often than not. And I was like, what's going on? And so it kind of like scared me for a little bit. I was like, I guess I shouldn't say hi to people. But I think at the same time, it impacted me just like, that's how much change like we need to instigate. We just need to start small, and it's going to turn into something really big.
It really does. And I think that's the coolest thing about it, right? Is like the internet's a good and bad thing, but it also stopped us from having that human to human connection in real life.
Yeah.
And the owning the wellness facility, like physically being in a brick and mortar business with my local population, not just in my little world of disability, was such a massive eye opener to I'm not that different from non-disabled people. I literally, the only difference is that I use a wheelchair. Like, we struggle the same. We feel everyone's in chronic pain. Everyone's going through something. And I think when you're able to actually pull out that macro lens and see the bigger picture of life, that everybody's dealing with something and going through something, and through their perspective, it feels just as monumental as yours does, the easier it is to not compare your journey to others and really just accept your journey for what it is and be able to go out and use that journey to its fullest capacity and get the most out of it. I think so often we underutilize the hard things that happen to us and how much we can actually use them to catapult us.
Yeah. We say like, oh, it's not hard enough to share. No one's gonna care. It's like, granted, yes, everyone is going through something hard and different, but like to know you overcame something is going to inspire somebody else, even if it's just yourself, I think.
Yeah.
And this has kind of just been on my mind a lot lately recently too. Is just, I think we need to start having more of those conversations about, what we're going through, what's difficult, what's emotional for us. We need to start having those more with the people that we care about and are close to us and are with us on the day to day, and not just, going to see our counselor and our therapist. I think they have so much power to help us, but I think we would maybe need less of access to that if we started having those close-knit groups of people that were already around and we had those conversations there, and we've learned how to have those conversations there.
That's what, so in the new year, I'm actually going to be dropping a series probably in Q2 or so, where I'm reading my old journals and where my mindset was and how I move forward from that, and like really, really opening up. My book is literally a tell-all. It comes out next year. It's a tell-all of my whole life. Every mistake I made, the lessons I should have learned in the moment, but maybe learned later on, or the lessons I learned in the moment, and how much I really just pissed my life away. And I think that that's important to recognize, because time is the only currency that we can't recreate. We can't buy more of it. There's no way to get more time. Time is the most precious currency in this world. And it's so easy to regret the decisions you made and the way that you wasted your time. And so the book, I deep dove into my life and where I really wasted a lot of things, but it allowed me to have a different appreciation for my future, and now I don't waste time.
Wonderful. I'm super excited to grab your book when it comes out. I saw that you were writing one. I saw you were kind of sharing some bits and pieces about it. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good one. I can already tell. I can't wait to learn from Jesi's experience here.
I cry every time I read it. It's so, obviously I have a personal connection to it, but like just the ending is such a happy story from the journey, and I think that's really powerful and impactful. Is that the journey is where the growth happens. The journey is the beauty of the story. The journey is really what's going to get you to that end result and get you that growth that you desire. And I think so often we want to go to A to Z without all the stuff in between, but that stuff in between is the beautiful part. And reliving my entire life and really looking at old Jesi under a microscope and in the mirror, I kind of killed the person I was before I was paralyzed. I mean, technically, when I got in the motorcycle accident, I coded twice, had to be resuscitated. And so I guess that person did die, and I looked at it that way. And it wasn't until this year that I really started talking about who I was before the injury, and just how not good of a person I was and how much I had people fooled. And it was very healing and very beautiful. I think one of the most powerful parts of my story, of my testimony, is I was saved the day before my accident. So I was an atheist up until the day before I was paralyzed. And I went to my ex-boyfriend's grandmother's funeral, and as the pastor was speaking, I felt a warm calmness come over me from head to toe. And I just knew everything was going to be okay. And I'm like, wow, there's like a God, and Granny's going to be okay. She's going home. And the next day, I'm in this motorcycle accident where a woman made a U-turn to the bike I was on. Driver didn't stop in time. He went through the car, broke his leg. I went over her SUV, broke my back in 2 places, chest collapsed, ribs punctured my lungs, nicked my spinal cord. I have a traumatic brain injury, and then I coded twice and had to be resuscitated. And at some point when I coded, I saw my own grandmother, and she told me, Jesi May, it's not your time. I can't stay with you, and you can't stay with me, but you have things to do and people to get back to, so you have to go now. She sent me back. And I tell my mom this. My mom's like, holy crap, she died. And my dad's like, no way. And a couple weeks later, they got my medical documentation. And yeah, I had coded. And I tried to cross over. And I got sent back for a bigger mission and purpose. And anytime I thought about killing myself, anytime I thought about giving up, I thought about my grandmother's words. And then she told me, you know, you have a bigger mission here. You have things to do. And I'm like, all right, God, I don't know what it is. And I didn't give in to my faith until the pandemic when I lost my independence. I had a cousin commit suicide the year prior. My niece did. And both times I felt jealousy that their life was over and they were no longer struggling. And I said, God, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, but I know I shouldn't be feeling jealousy when someone's life's over. So can you please help me out here, dude? I am ready to give my life to you. And I gave my whole life to God. And he literally was just like, I bet, girl, because I was waiting for you to do this. And the doors that have opened up, the way that my life has just changed, I have chills. I mean, it's beautiful. You pray, you work, you genuinely act in his likeness. You'll be anointed. You'll get every blessing that you have coming your way and then some. More blessings than you could have ever imagined, and they'll be bigger than you could have anything you could have ever imagined. And so I think it's really important to not doubt God's power in your life and not doubt God's will for your life. And you've really got to lean into that and lean into the fact that there is a higher power out here that's got you, and you have to fall to grow. He's not going to protect you from anything like that because that is his protection. Realistically, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't get paralyzed. Did he create the paralysis? I don't think so, but he gave me a mission and a purpose out of it. And that's a lot bigger than anything I could have created on my own.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, thank you for sharing all that. Those are special stories and impactful, powerful, spiritual, and touching. So thank you for sharing those. And just 2,000%. Couldn't agree more.
Well, without our faith, man, I know you can relate to it. Like, I can't even. I think one of the biggest things I wanted to be loved and love somebody. I want to build a life with somebody. This is something that you've only been following me for a few months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been like, if you scroll back to this time last year, there's like 3 or 4 lives where I'm just sobbing about how men suck and I'm alone and I just want to be with somebody and all these things. And last year there was a lot because I was just feeling it. And I wrote a list of everything I wanted in a partner. I prayed and I said, God, I'm gonna work on the mission you gave me at hand. I'm working on becoming my very best, being more in your likeness every day, and I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. And I left the partner out of my mind. And then fast forward to this year, and I met my now partner, and we became best friends. And never in my life, I told you guys at the beginning, you know, I was a sex addict. I literally gave my body away to everyone from the time I was 13 on. I lost track of partners at like 50 when I was 15. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to be like, yo, it was a serious problem and no one ever talked to me about it. I got pregnant at 15 and had an abortion. Like, I've never... Yeah, and it's like, I realized I never got into a relationship without getting to know somebody first. I had sex with them first and then the relationship came. So I never developed a genuine connection with anyone. I was just having surface level stuff. And it was just lust. And I was like, wow, I've never actually been in love. So I met my now partner at the beginning of the year. And we literally spent 11 months just being friends. And there was other situations that forced that to happen, but we literally just friends. All we ever did was hug. No lines were ever crossed. We did acknowledge that we felt the same way, but he had to handle his shit. I had to handle some of my shit. We had things to do. I'm sorry if there's no cussing. I do cuss from time to time. But there was things we had to handle before we could dive in and commit fully to one another, right? And so we just focused on the friendship. And he's genuinely my best friend before my partner. Our communication is so clear that it's unbreakable. And we still, now we're together and we still haven't had sex. And I think that's so important because now we're transitioning from best friends into a relationship and a romantic relationship. And so, yeah, we should probably wait to have sex as we navigate the change in our actual relationship as well, right? And so I'm not too mad at it. I'm cool with it. And to be in this space, going from somebody who thought sex first to somebody who now really, I appreciate the relationship more, that genuine connection more. Then we can have that genuine, intimate connection. But if you don't have genuine connection with someone, how can you get to the intimacy? And I think that's so important for people to understand that are dating, that are considering dating, is like your body, you have to think when you give your body out, you're allowing people to plug into you. You're giving your energy away and you're taking their energy. Now you think about the people that you're taking energy from. Is that the energy you want to take?
Yeah.
I know a lot of the people I was with them wasn't. And it's like having that thought first and foremost, such a game changer.
Yeah.
But my book really dives deep into that and how I just wanted to be loved. And so I prayed, and God showed up with this person, but we were in a situation where I was forced to learn the things I needed to learn to be the best partner possible, like
Yeah.
patience, like connection, right? But if God didn't step in, and if I didn't actually give my life to God to allow Him to step in my life and then listen and not force issues and not allow my lustful emotions to run wild, because I'd be lying if I said they weren't there.
Yeah.
I gave into what God had planned for me. And I know there's probably situations in your life that might not be like that, but like where you gave into what God had planned for you and God showed up and showed out and was like, hey, this is even better than you could have ever imagined it to be.
Definitely. No, I think that's I again couldn't agree more. You got all the right words and stories. I think just kind of on all that. I have five sisters. They're all younger than me. Um, they're all the oldest one's she's a senior in high school right now. Junior? No, she's senior. Um, and so you know, just kind of like from an older brother perspective, just like and I see all these girls. I'm about to graduate college, so I've been in the that area with all these people. I'm married. I've been married for a little over a year, but I just see all these amazing people out there, amazing girls. They're wonderful, doing great things, and then just like you say, they just want to be loved. But sometimes they're missing the point, or they just can't seem to find somebody for them. And I'm just like, where I think sometimes guys do suck more, more often than not. Unfortunately, I think I think we live up to that stereotype maybe a little too good, too well, and so from an older brother perspective, my heart always goes out to those people because I'm just like, I wouldn't want you to be with, anybody that's not going to treat you and protect you like I would, and better, honestly. And so I've always connected with people in that way. Like, just like I see people and it's like, hey, like I want to protect and take care of you. Like I'm going to be your shield because that's just how I grew up, protecting my sisters and more so now as, they're liking boys and wanting to date and stuff. I'm like, no, you can't. Um, so,
I love that.
so yeah,
I
but
think it's
I
really
mean, as go ahead, sorry.
I just love that. I think it's amazing, like that you're able to take that lens from being an older brother and apply that to the world, right? And it's just like, just love yourself, please, just love yourself enough, like, and it's just like my book. So the dedication to my book is to pre-injury Jesi. I hope that we can save someone like you. Is along the lines of what it says, and I genuinely mean that. I wish there was a way that I could have saved pre-injury Jesi because man, that girl had so much potential. And she just, every opportunity, she just pissed it away and just let it go. And it was just like, damn, girl, I hope that our story can impact someone like you and help them before it's too late, before something catastrophic happens in their life. Because I did all the things, I did all the things. And it's just, I feel really grateful that I get to live to talk about it now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, I think you're great living evidence that, even after something catastrophic does happen, there's still the chance to change and be a little bit better. And so obviously you're living that to the fullest and helping others to do the same. So, while we obviously we don't want the bad things to happen, we we got to roll with the punches, and eventually we got to let one of those be the thing that changes us.
I think when it comes to change, just a little asterisk side note, when you begin to change, don't expect the people around you to understand that change or accept you as you are now.
Yeah.
I currently rent the basement from my parents, actually moving out very soon. And man, the last year has been really hard because I've had such monumental growth that my family hasn't really been able to keep up with me and who I am as a person now. And so I find my parents making comments about, and the comments are more about who I was before, not who I currently am. And it stings and it's frustrating. But I say that to say is like, you can't let the people around you and your loved ones and your circle dictate where you go because one, it might make them uncomfortable if you begin to change, or two, they want to remember you as you were. My childhood best friend got married this year, and I love her to death, and this is not a hit on her, but she kept trying to hook me up with one of her friends at her wedding. And even if I hadn't been seeing who I've been seeing, I wouldn't have hooked up with them. That's not who I am anymore. But she hasn't been around me a lot in the last 10 years to know that I'm no longer that person. The last time she was around me, I was that person. And so we have to realize and have understanding from the other side that people may not understand our change, or they're going to always hold us to that view they hold us to. I think about, like, as an adult, our young cousins, right? And then our young cousins grow up and now they're old and they're like graduating and things like that. Or your sisters are a great example, and you probably think of them as the littles you had, and now they're like graduating, and you constantly have that view of the person in your mind. And so when they do change, it's really hard to accept that and understand that. And so as you're in your personal development journey, you can't expect the people around you to understand and accept that. And you have to be okay with that. And you have to be okay with committing to the process, even though that's the case. So getting into support groups, getting into community programs, that's why we have the Freedom Fam community, is because we are literally a community of people that understand the change you're trying to make and want to help you create that change and support you in that and see you as who you're becoming, not who you've been.
No, definitely. I love that you mentioned that, because I think it is so important. And then, finding a new support group so that you can, I think it's important you have that support group so that you can still maintain, important relationships, with the people that do matter, like your family relationships. Like, those are never going to change. And being able to maintain those in a way, until they're able to really develop where you'd like them to be, I think, like you say, is super important. So I think, it's a great point for sure.
Definitely want to include that because I think it's so a lot. That's a question I get a lot. Like when I do question boxes of, hey, what's your biggest mental block? It's like, I'm changing, but no one else around me is accepting that I'm changing, and it's making it really hard to revert back to old habits. And I'm like, sometimes you're on the journey alone, and I was definitely on my personal development journey alone for most of it. It wasn't until recent years that I got friends and partners that are also on those journeys, right? And so understanding that too, that it's okay to go alone. We are social creatures. You're allowed to be social, but also if you have a goal and you want to make it happen, you've got to stick to it and commit to it.
Got to be disciplined for sure. Well, no, for sure. I love that. Thank you. Thanks for everything that you've shared on here, Jesi. Just kind of as we come to a close here, it's been wonderful. Awesome conversation, awesome topics, and great points. More than I could have hoped for. I kind of like to leave the conversation open as I kind of prep with my guests, because I just like to let it ebb and flow and kind of take it. So it's gone swimmingly, and I've learned so much and had some insights from you. So thank you so much for sharing. As we finish out, just kind of last two things. Just kind of like the number one thing that you share with people. I usually ask a different question, like, what would you share with the younger version of yourself, which you've kind of already answered. So just kind of, number one thing you typically kind of share with people as they're on their journey to, becoming something new and different. And then where can people find and connect with you?
I think the biggest thing to share is nothing in life is permanent, and we cannot allow other people to dictate the way we live our life. we often think that we're stuck in this situation or where we're at, and you're not stuck forever as long as you're making effort to get out of it and you're doing things and trying different things. But you also cannot allow other people to dictate what it is you do. And too often we give other people control of our life. Learn to say no. Best word I've ever learned. It is a complete sentence. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite sentences. No, thank you. I'm out. If you enjoyed the show, first and foremost, please share it with somebody that can actually benefit from it. Share it directly and be like, hey, I love this point in here. I think you could benefit from this. I think that's so important to make shows like this grow and to help get the message out. And honestly, just help Nathan with what he's been doing. He's been busting his butt to grow this. And so definitely want to make sure that you're helping support him. If you want to support me, it's at Jesi Stracham, Stracham, on all platforms. You can follow my nonprofit at Wheel With Me Foundation on all platforms. You can follow Wheel With Me Adapt Fit on all platforms and Freedom LKN on all platforms. And that's my organizations and me. And if you have any questions or want coaching, just send me a DM and reach out to me directly and we'll dive into what that looks like. Got to get on a call, make sure we're a good fit and go from there. But thank you so much for sharing your platform with me and having me today.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jesi. It's been a wonderful conversation. To everyone that's listening, I hope you've enjoyed. Definitely go follow Jesi. Go learn from her. She's got so much to share. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.